That sharp pull that starts deep in the pelvis and runs down the leg like a line of fire carries a message very few people know how to read. A sciatic nerve in constant vigilance is signaling that the base of your body has lost stability and learned that moving forward equals danger. Right now, as you listen to this, the piriformis may be compressing the neural pathway deep in the glute, keeping the leg on alert and the hip locked. What medicine calls piriformis syndrome is the body asking for reorganization at the floor of the temple. Before any technique comes in, you need to map what exists now. Without this initial reference, there will be no clear contrast later. By the time you finish this video, sciatic pain may be noticeably reduced, the hip more spacious, the leg responding without fear. But to truly feel that change, you must internally snapshot how your body is defending the sacred nerve in this moment. Anyone who leaves now misses the chance to discover where vigilance lives and how to awaken the intelligence of a nerve that has been forgotten. Bring your attention to the deep glute now, that territory between the sacrum and the outer hip where the piriformis crosses the path of the sciatic nerve. What do you find when you explore without hurry? Is there density like a knot that resists? Warmth or cold? Does the texture feel hard and fibrous, or does it pulse with a living tension? You may notice a descending line, a sharp sensation running down the thigh or radiating toward the knee, as if the nerve is asking for space it cannot find. Now, widen the map to the entire pelvis. How is the sacrum positioned? Does it feel tipped forward, locked backward, or shifted to one side? Slowly move up to the lower back and notice whether it arches too much, compensating for instability below. Move down to the feet and sense whether your weight is evenly distributed or if one leg is carrying more load, protecting the side that hurts. Does the breath reach the pelvis, or does it stay trapped in the chest, avoiding the territory on alert? Return to the deep glute, to the exact point where the piriformis compresses the neural pathway. Take an internal snapshot of this place now. Do not try to relieve it. Do not judge the tension. Simply register how this region is behaving in this moment. How rigid does it feel? Is the nerve signaling constant pain or a latent signal ready to flare with the slightest wrong movement? This record is your baseline, the before that will allow you to perceive change clearly.
That map is stored. You have just shown your body where vigilance lives, where the sacred nerve learned it must stay alert. There is nothing you need to do with this yet. The initial scan is complete. The body has revealed its current state, and that information will be essential for what comes next. What you just mapped, this vigilance of the sciatic nerve, this density in the piriformis, this pelvis that has lost a sense of safe ground, are signs of deep somatic patterns that keep the body in survival mode even when the threat has passed. I organized a guide called Cura em Movimento, 22 ciclos somáticos para liberar traumas, restaurar o fluxo e voltar a criar, that works directly with this reorganization of the bodily base, releasing old layers that keep the nerve compressed and the sacrum on alert. The link is in the first pinned comment. I strongly recommend you access it. Now let us move into the intervention that will restore space to the sacred nerve and stability to the pelvis. The body has shown where vigilance lives. The next step is to offer reorganization to the compressed territory. Lie on your back with your knees bent, feet resting on the floor at hip width. Allow the lower back to soften toward the ground without forcing, letting the pelvis find a neutral position where the sacrum can rest under its own weight. Bring a slow breath down the spine into the pelvis as if the air could reach the bone itself and signal to the nervous system that it can lower its guard. Slide your right hand under the right glute until you find the dense territory between the sacrum and the outer hip, that diagonal line where the piriformis crosses the path of the sciatic nerve. When your fingers locate the point of greatest resistance, apply a firm but non-aggressive pressure, sustained and gradual. Do not force your way in. Invite the tissue to soften, letting the weight of your hand sink slowly, millimeter by millimeter, while you continue breathing downward. Maintain the pressure on the point and notice what happens when you stay with it without rushing. The knot may begin to soften, the texture may shift from hard to fibrous, or local warmth might appear, along with a pulsing sensation that signals the tissue is yielding. If the downward sharp sensation increases slightly in the first few seconds, that is normal. The nerve is responding to the touch. Keep breathing, letting each exhale invite the deep glute to release one more layer of old defense.
Without removing the pressure, begin making micro-rotations with the pelvis, as if the sacrum were drawing slow, small circles on the floor. The movement does not need to be large, only enough to reorganize the relationship between the pelvic bone and the tense muscle. As the hips move gently, the hand pressure stays steady on the point, creating a dialogue between stability and mobility that teaches the piriformis it can relax without losing function. Now integrate an isometric contraction. With the hand still on the point, press the glute into your fingers as if you were trying to push the hand away. Hold that effort for 5 full seconds, then release completely. Repeat this 3 times, always following the same sequence. Press firmly, count to 5, release fully. This pattern retrains the piriformis to contract and relax consciously, undoing the chronic holding that compresses the sacred nerve unnecessarily. You may begin to notice signs that something is shifting in the deep territory. Warmth may spread from the glute into the thigh, or there may be a sudden softening where there was only rigidity before. The descending sharp sensation may decrease in intensity or change location, moving as different layers of tension release. Subtle tremors, a spontaneous sigh, even yawning or tears are natural responses when the body recognizes it can lower its guard. Do not interrupt, simply observe and allow. Sustain the pressure and the steady breathing for a few more cycles, letting the process deepen without haste. Each exhale invites the sacrum to settle further into the ground. Each inhale brings presence without adding tension. The sciatic nerve is recalibrating its signal, reducing vigilance as the pelvis demonstrates it has become a safe base again. Stay here until you sense the point has released as much as it can for now, without forcing beyond what the body is ready to let go. Slowly remove your hand as if leaving a sacred territory that has just been reorganized. Let the glute rest on the ground without rushing. Allow the entire leg to integrate the change that occurred in the deep tissue. Take 3 long breaths, bringing air down into the pelvis, feeling the sacrum more settled, the hip more spacious. The body has just moved through a neural and fascial reorganization. Now it is time to map what has changed. Bring your attention back to the deep glute, that territory between the sacrum and the outer hip where the piriformis crosses the sciatic nerve. Without moving, without adjusting, simply observe. What is there now when you investigate without doing anything? Is the density you felt at the beginning still present in the same way, or has something softened? Does the descending line through the thigh signal with the same intensity, or has the nerve lowered its alert?
Expand the map to the entire pelvis, following the same path as the initial scan. How is the sacrum resting on the floor now? Does it feel more integrated, more stable, or still shifted? Move up to the lower back and notice whether the curve has changed, whether it is still compensating or has found a new organization. Move down to the feet and sense whether the weight is distributed differently between the legs. Can the breath descend into the pelvis more easily now, or does it still meet resistance along the way? Return to the exact point you internally photographed during the initial scan, that place deep in the glute where neural compression was most evident. Compare the image from before with what your fingers or your attention find now. There may be more softness where there was rigidity. The warmth may be stronger, signaling restored circulation. The sharp sensation may have diminished or disappeared altogether. The sacred nerve may now be signaling less danger, responding to the reorganization that took place in the surrounding territory. Your body has just taught you something no explanation could ever deliver. The contrast you feel between the before and the after was not suggested from the outside. It was discovered by you directly in the tissue. This perception is yours, lived in the skin, in the bones, along the neural pathway that learned it can lower vigilance when the pelvis returns to being a safe base. This lived contrast reveals something precise. Sciatic pain decreases when the pelvis regains stability and the sacred nerve recognizes safe ground. The physical marker you can use as a reference is simple. When the deep glute becomes dense again and the descending sharp sensation returns, you know you have slipped back into vigilance. When you feel softness in the piriformis, free range in the hip, and the leg responding without fear, you know the intelligence of the nerve has been awakened. The anchoring gesture for this state is to place one hand on the sacrum, take 3 downward breaths, and make gentle pelvic micro-rotations for 30 seconds. When you notice the old pattern returning, you already have the full map. Do a quick scan to locate where the tension came back. Apply progressive pressure at the compression point. Integrate the micro-rotations and the isometric contraction. Then check what has changed. This can be done in just a few minutes, anywhere you can lie down or sit with privacy. The guide Cura en Movimiento that I mentioned works with this somatic reorganization in a broader way, releasing other territories that sustain chronic vigilance patterns. The link is in the first pinned comment. This video is not disposable information. It is a return tool you carry with you permanently. Having this lived contrast means you no longer depend on external explanations to know whether you are improving or regressing. Leave this in the comments. I awaken the intelligence of my sacred nerve, and pain no longer commands me. Putting this into words turns perception into active body memory, anchoring the neural shift more deeply. If this content resonates with you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications to receive practices that treat pain as a language that can be decoded. If you want to keep exploring somatic practices that reorganize old patterns, click the video on the screen. The deep pain that started in the pelvis and ran down the leg does not disappear by miracle. It dissolves when you awaken the intelligence of the sacred nerve and restore safety to the base that supports your entire life.